Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to discuss regarding the previous year questions which have come in for sexual offences. Now, sexual offences is a large umbrella that is under which there are separate and different offences which we can address. My idea in this class is that you understand some of these offences, see the questions that come for them, and it's also important to remember that extremely direct questions which ask sections, bearing in mind that now BNS has come into picture, you must know whatever the provision number, the section number is, whether under IPC and BNS, and also the punishment that has been given for the particular offense. In this class, we'll try to see certain concepts in some of these offenses and provide clarity to them. Now, in this particular video, I would like to start off with the definition and then address the question so that we understand the concept, the important ingredients of the section, and then try to answer the question. I have again tried to take a mix of questions which have come for Delhi, which have come for Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, and so I have tried to create a cluster of questions which have repeatedly been asked. So, starting with stalking. Now, stalking requires or states that any man who follows a woman and contacts or attempts to contact such woman to foster a personal interaction repeatedly despite a clear indication of disinterest by such woman. So, what is necessary that there is an indication of disinterest by a female, a man follows or attempts to follow and contact such woman, right? And for the purpose of personal interaction, right? For the purpose of personal engagement, or monitors the use of a woman of the internet, email, or any other form of electronic communication, commits the offense of stalking. So, the idea of monitoring the whereabouts or monitoring the activity of an individual on electronic media or electronic communication has also been recognized under the offense. It states that provided if the act is done for the purpose of preventing or detecting a crime, and the man accused of stalking had been entrusted with the responsibility of preventing and detecting a particular crime by the state, it will not be considered as an offense of stalking. It was pursued under any law or to comply with any condition or requirement imposed by any person under any law. So it is either in the requirement of a law, or if the circumstances are such which justify and provide that the act was reasonable. So these three provisions or these three exceptions have been given wherein it may not amount to stalking. If you are responsible or entrusted with the act of preventing a crime, if you are doing it under a law, or if it is found to be reasonable and justified. But essentially, what is stalking? Following or attempting to follow an individual in order to foster an interaction when the person is showing disinterest, which here has to be a female. Also, there's a second category: you monitor such person on email, internet, or an electronic communication mode in any form of the same of a woman by a man can amount to stalking. Now, the question that has come: A and B are good friends. A proposes for marriage, but she denies. A, in suspicion of B's love affair with somebody, monitors the use of her mobile phone and email account by B. What offense has been committed by A? And of course, the answer to this question is that the person has committed stalking. What is important to note is that the language will always, as I have said in the previous class also, there is language which will hint in the question only towards the Answer. So here the perpetrator proposes for marriage, the female denies, and A continues to monitor her on an electronic form or an electronic medium. It is stalking, right? Now coming to a different offense, which is voyeurism. Voyeurism, previously under IPC, stated that it was an act which must be committed by a man. Now the term is whoever. So either individual or the terminology used here has changed. And it states that watches or captures image of a woman engaging in a private act in circumstances where she would usually have the expectation of not being observed. So she believes that she is in privacy, she is committing a private act when she feels she is alone, either by the is observed by the perpetrator or by any other person at the behest of the perpetrator, or disseminates an image, shall be punished on first conviction by so and second conviction by so and so. The point that the offense is making, you must either watch, capture an image of a woman engaged in a private act in circumstances where she believes or has an expectation that she is not being observed by the perpetrator or any other person, right? And in such situation, if there is observation or dissemination of an image, then it can be considered as voyeurism. What is a private act has also been told to us. It is an act which is watching of a person and carried out in a place in the circumstances which would reasonably be expected to provide privacy, and where the victim's genitals, posterior or breasts are exposed or covered only in an underwear, or the victim is using a lavatory, or the victim is doing a sexual act that is not of a kind ordinarily done in public. So the explanation provided to us says that private act includes, so it includes this what we have discussed right now. It gives us an outline as to what circumstances could be considered and would be reasonably called as an individual engaged in a private act. The second explanation is important. It says that where a victim consents to the capture of images or any act, but not to its dissemination to any third person, and where such image or act is disseminated, it shall come under this particular offense. So we understand observing a person when they are engaged in a private act or disseminating images is considered as voyeurism, and it has been clarified that this dissemination should be something which the person has not consented to, whoever's images are captured. Now, looking at the questions that have been asked in this regard, when a woman was taking bath in her bathroom, now again this aspect creates the idea of a private act. X captures the image in his mobile and uploads it on her Facebook page. What offense has been committed by X? Now, this is a private act. He has captured images without her permission and he has disseminated those images also without her permission. It is clearly voyeurism, right? Second example in front of us, B and his girlfriend G, both adults, engage in consensual sexual intercourse in the privacy of the bedroom of the latter, and B, with her consent, prepares a video clip on his mobile camera and later shows it in total privacy of his to his friend F. Now, here they engage in an intimate act of which B takes or clicks images, right? Since she has consented to this, this in itself will not amount to an act of voyeurism because she has consented to the act. She has agreed to this. But since the dissemination has been done, and with regards to that dissemination, there is no mention of consent, it continues to be an act of voyeurism, reiterating the explanation aspect which we just saw. If victim consents to the capture of images or any act, but not to its dissemination, and where it is disseminated even only to a single individual, it will amount to the offense of voyeurism. Okay. Now we come to an example of rape. P, a male music teacher, told R, one of his female students, that there is an operation for improving the voice, and if she agreed, he would perform it on her. She agreed. On the basis of her consent, he raped her. Later, the matter was reported to the police by R. The options given to us are R will not succeed as P raped her with consent. P is not responsible as R thought that the act was for improving her voice. P is not guilty as R should have known that the consent given to P might injure her. P will be liable for the offense of rape as R agreed to P's deeds as she thought that it was to improve her voice. Now, the short understanding of rape, and which in context of this question, is that it is based on the idea that no consent of the individual is taken, or the aspect of consent in cases of question or in cases of rape is the critical question. When it comes to understanding what is consent, technically IPC and BNS do not give us an idea of what it is actually considered. However, they do tell us what is not consent under section 90 of IPC. It tells us that if you receive or you agree to something, you consent to something under a misconception of fact, then in that scenario, it is not considered to be consent itself because it is based on a misconception. So, simply put, in this situation, P will be liable because the consent which has been achieved here or received here is on the basis of a misconception of fact. Another reason why I took this particular question is look at the framing of the question. The language used is he raped her. So technically, the question itself is making and is giving you the answer that there is rape, and there is therefore liability. If you commit rape, you will be liable for it. So what I'm simply trying to imply is that look at the language of the question repeatedly. This question, the way it has been framed, rightly or wrongly, gives us a direct answer which leads to the fact that P is liable for what he's done. Of course, the explanation to it is that the way she received consent is on the basis of a misconception of fact, and therefore it is not consent. And if an act of intimacy is committed without consent, it is considered to be rape. Of course, we will do more questions on this. I want to take up a PYQ series right now. Subsequently, I will frame my own questions and put them forward so we can discuss more situational questions on rape and other sexual offenses also. Okay, so here P will be liable for the offense of rape as Ray agreed to P's deeds on the basis that it will improve her wife. So, based on a misconception of fact. Now, coming to the last aspect that I want to deal with, which is what is gang rape. Question has come on it quite direct, but what is important to note is that recently a lot of decisions are coming by the Supreme Court on what is gang rape. I will be taking, and I have taken cases also, and shortly I will take another case on um, gang rape of the Supreme Court. So you can watch that video also. So I feel that there is a possibility that questions on gang rape can come in the future based on how many decisions the Supreme Court is passing. Now, understanding the ingredients of gang rape is important, where a woman is raped by one or more persons. This is critical because it does not require, or it makes a statement that one or more people must commit the rape, constituting a group, one or more persons, constituting a group or acting in furtherance of common intention. Each of those persons shall be deemed to have committed the offense of rape and shall be punished with rigorous imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 20 years, but which may extend to imprisonment of for life, which shall mean the remainder of that person's natural life and with fine. Right? So, repeating the first half, where a woman is raped by one or more persons, constituting a group or acting in furtherance of common intention, each of those persons shall be deemed to have committed the offense of rape and shall be punished with so on and so forth. The point that we are wanting to establish is one or more persons who constitute a group or who are acting in furtherance of common intention, each person shall be deemed to have committed the offense of rape if one or more of those persons commit the act of rape. And a direct question on this has also been asked. For gang rape, it is necessary that rape is committed by more than one person. It is necessary that rape is committed by more than two persons. It is necessary that rape is committed by more than five persons, or none of the above is correct. The answer is A. It requires that at least one or more individuals who are part of a group and who, in the furtherance of common intention, commit this act. In those situations, each individual shall be liable for the act of rape. I hope students have been able to address a few doubts and questions with regards to uh, sexual offenses and the questions that come along or on the basis of these offenses. We will continue this series in the next week also. There was a comment that came for the previous PYQ series which talks about the question that was in relation was where a person's body was disposed, believing that the person was already dead and the body was disposed into a pond. Now, to the person who has written the comment, the only thing that I will add is that he believed the person was dead and disposed the body. The facts are silent whether he tried to find out also whether the person is alive or not. He simply threw the body into the pond. Does this add to the mental aspect of how he committed the act? Is something again we must ponder on. So I will leave with that additional response to that comment. Thank you, students, for joining me in this short video. We will continue the PYQ series in the next week.